Imagine sitting in a quiet, locked room. You are completely safe. There are no predators outside the door, the temperature is perfectly regulated, and you have enough food to last for months. You are entirely independent. Yet, deep inside your chest, there is a dull, heavy ache, a physical pressure beneath your ribs that feels remarkably like a bruise. If you open your phone and scroll through 100 faces who do not know you, the pressure tightens. We call this feeling loneliness. We treat it like a poetic melancholy, a social awkwardness, or a minor psychological defect that can be cured with a better mindset. But your body does not care about poetry. While you are sitting quietly on your bed, your central nervous system is panicking. Deep within your tissues, a silent, automated emergency protocol has just been triggered. Your immune system is actively altering how it expresses your genetic code, preparing for a violent assault that will never come, and systematically destroying your organs from the inside out. Your brain does not understand the modern world. It does not know what an apartment is. It does not understand remote work, and it has no concept of a high-speed internet connection. It only understands survival. For 99% of human history, being separated from your tribe was not an emotional inconvenience. It was a death sentence with a slight delay. If you were cast out of the group on the ancient Savanna, you were immediately exposed to apex predators. You could not hunt large game alone. A single twisted ankle or a mild fever meant certain death. Because the stakes were so high, natural selection could not trust you to simply wander back to the group whenever you felt like it. It needed an enforcement mechanism so brutal, so immediate, and so agonizing that you would do anything to avoid being left behind. It built an internal alarm system, and to make sure you listened, it plugged that alarm directly into your physical pain matrix. In 2003, a cognitive neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger conducted an experiment that fundamentally changed our understanding of human suffering. She placed participants inside an fMRI brain scanner and had them play a simple virtual game of catch called Cyberball. On the screen, 3 little digital figures passed a ball back and forth. The participant controlled one figure, while the other 2 were controlled by a computer script. At first, everyone played together. But after a few throws, the 2 computer-controlled figures suddenly stopped passing the ball to the human player. They turned toward each other, throwing the ball back and forth, completely ignoring the real person lying inside the machine. On paper, it was a meaningless, trivial game. There were no stakes, no prizes, and the participants did not even know the other players. Yet, the moment the digital avatars stopped throwing the ball, the scanners lit up. A massive spike of electrical activity erupted inside the participants' brains. Specifically, it fired in a region called the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the exact piece of neural hardware responsible for processing the distressing, unbearable quality of physical tissue damage. It is the part of your brain that screams when you break a bone, burn your hand on a stove, or get sliced by a blade. The brain scan of a person experiencing a brief, trivial social snub looks nearly identical to the brain scan of a person being physically injured. Your nervous system does not possess a separate channel for emotional heartache. It uses the exact same alarm for a broken limb and a broken connection. To your nervous system, the emotional toll of isolation uses the exact same neural pathways as the physical sting of a blow. Your brain genuinely treats a wound to your social bonds as a wound to your flesh. This realization forces us to confront a deeply uncomfortable truth about human nature. We live in a culture that treats self-sufficiency as the ultimate psychological virtue. We are told to love ourselves before we can love others, to find total peace within our own minds, and to view the need for human connection as a form of emotional dependency or weakness. But our biology completely rejects this philosophy. We have pathologized a fundamental survival drive. If you are hungry, no one tells you that you have a stomach defect. They tell you to eat. If you are thirsty, no one accuses you of being weak. They give you water. Yet when we feel lonely, we hide it. We carry it like a secret shame, an admission of social failure or unlovability. Have we built a society where the expression of our most basic biological survival instinct has become something to be ashamed of? Leave a comment below with your thoughts, because this psychological distortion is exactly where our modern crisis begins. When the anterior cingulate cortex fires its alarm for too long, the body enters a chronic state of hypervigilance. This is a condition of constant subconscious alertness, where your brain behaves as if it is entirely unguarded in a hostile environment. When you are alone for long periods, your body assumes there is no one watching your back while you sleep. There is no one to help you scan the brush for movement. Your nervous system shifts into a permanent fight or flight posture. Your muscles lock, your blood pressure rises, and your heart rate variability drops. You become hypersensitive to your surroundings. This explains a tragic psychological feedback loop. Lonely people often become highly irritable, anxious, and socially defensive. They start interpreting neutral faces as hostile and casual remarks as insults. Their conscious mind thinks it is just having a bad day, but their subconscious mind is standing on a watchtower, staring into the dark, waiting for a predator to leap from the shadows. If you want to keep exploring the hidden, raw biology behind the way we live and feel every day, consider subscribing to the channel. We are only scratching the surface of how our ancient bodies are struggling to survive the world we have built. The real horror of this evolutionary mismatch, however, takes place far below the level of conscious thought. It happens at the level of your cellular architecture. A geneticist named Steve Cole began studying the white blood cells of chronically isolated individuals, looking for the physical footprint of loneliness. What he discovered was a terrifying genomic shift known as the Conserved Transcriptional Response to Adversity, or CTRA. When you feel deeply disconnected from other humans, this molecular switch flips inside your immune cells. Your body alters the way it reads its own genetic blueprint. It actively tears down its defense systems against viruses and pathogens, reallocating all its biological resources to trigger massive, systemic inflammation. From an evolutionary perspective, this restructuring made perfect sense. On the ancient Savanna, if you were separated from the tribe, your risk of catching a viral infection from another person dropped to zero, because there was no one around you. But your risk of being torn open by a predator or injured in a fall skyrocketed. The body needed to prepare for physical trauma. It needed its tissues to swell and clot instantly to prevent bleeding out. Inflammation is a wonderful short-term shield against a physical wound, but it is a toxic poison when it never turns off. Because you are sitting perfectly still in a modern room, there is no physical wound to heal. There is no predator. There is only a silent, continuous flood of pro-inflammatory chemicals circulating through your bloodstream, month after month, year after year. Loneliness literally re-scripts your immune system to wage a microscopic war against your own healthy tissues, accelerating cardiovascular disease, rotting your arteries, and feeding the growth of chronic illnesses. The scale of this destruction is not theoretical. It has a literal body count. An epidemiologist named Julianne Holt-Lundstad conducted a massive meta-analysis, tracking data from over 300,000 individuals to map the exact mortality risk of social isolation. Her findings shocked the public health community. The data proved that a chronic lack of social connection shortens a human lifespan by the exact same margin as smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. It is more dangerous to your physical longevity than physical inactivity and twice as deadly as clinical obesity. We have passed laws to ban smoking in public offices, restaurants, and airplanes. We print graphic warnings on packages to terrify people away from toxins. Yet, we have systematically engineered a modern lifestyle that forces millions of people to inhale the psychological equivalent of a pack of cigarettes a day, simply by the way our communities are structured. This brings us to the longest-running study on human health ever conducted, the Harvard Study of Adult Development. For more than 85 years, researchers followed the exact same group of individuals from their youth in the 1930s all the way into old age, tracking their blood work, their brain scans, their career paths, and their personal lives. They watched entire generations live, grow old, and die, searching for the single variable that best predicted who would remain healthy, sharp, and alive into their 80s and 90s. It was not their cholesterol levels. It was not their wealth, their social class, or their genetic privilege. The single most powerful predictor of physical health and longevity was the quality of their relationships. The data showed that people who were most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. Deep, reliable human connection acts as a literal physical shield for your internal organs and your neurological pathways. Here lies the great, tragic paradox of modern civilization. We have finally achieved the ultimate human dream of physical independence. For millennia, our ancestors dreamed of a world where they would not be at the mercy of others, where they could have absolute security, absolute privacy, and total control over their immediate environment. We built that world. You can live in a clean, concrete box high above the ground. You can work entirely through a glowing monitor. You can have your food dropped at your doorstep by an anonymous delivery worker, without ever looking another human being in the eyes. You are entirely safe from the cold, the rain, and the predators. With the exact moment you achieve this absolute physical autonomy, your primitive DNA looks around the empty room, misinterprets the silence as a catastrophic tribal exile, panics, and begins dismantling your health from within. We have built the perfect prison out of our own success. This reveals a profound existential tension. Modern culture romanticizes the completely sovereign individual, the lone wolf who stands entirely self-sufficient, requiring nothing from anyone. But biology presents a deeply humbling counter-argument. The human being is fundamentally an open-loop system. We are not closed biological circuits. Our blood pressure, our resting heart rate, our stress hormones, and our cellular repair cycles are not entirely self-regulated. They are designed to be co-regulated by the physical presence, the voice, the touch, and the emotional safety provided by other human beings. When we remove that presence, our internal clock loses its rhythm. Our biology begins to drift into chaos. We are soft, tribal creatures trapped inside a hard, individualist ideology, trying desperately to pretend that we do not need each other to stay alive. Your body is not broken. When you feel that deep, hollow ache of isolation in the middle of a crowded city street, your system is not failing. It is working exactly as it was beautifully engineered to work 50,000 years ago. It is trying to save your life. It is screaming at you to run back to the warmth of the campfire, to find the tribe, to restore the circuit before the dark takes you. The tragedy is that there is no campfire left to run to, only a grid of isolated concrete boxes and glowing screens that mimic connection, without ever feeding the body's biological hunger. We do not need more self-help books telling us to find peace in isolation. We need to look out from our transparent cages, recognize that the person in the box across the street is suffering from the exact same evolutionary panic, and realize that our survival has always depended on our willingness to reach through the glass.